Greetings, Alden, and good night. Although I should say good day because the time of this recording is not taking place at the night. I am here for another evening bedtime story, once again based on what we would consider three totally random objects. Let's take a look at what our story will have to include today. Play-Doh, a completely real magic wand, and the fantastic game of Spot It. So all three of these items shall have to be integrated into this story, which is being made up completely on the fly as I pace aimlessly about the house. Lay down, relax, and get ready for your story. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Kelsey. Kelsey was a precocious and engaged and hyper little girl. She never stopped talking. She never stopped answering questions and asking questions, and she would always be running about and exploring the world. And normally one might think, ooh, she's creative. She has the spirit of endeavor and exploration. She will do quite well in this world. And you were right. However, you might have heard the phrase, curiosity killed the cat. And in this case, the phrase is, curiosity made lots and lots of problems for the little girl, Kelsey. One day, she was playing with her friends at the park. This was a day in which she was approximately 10 years old, and they were sitting around on the grass telling each other stories. One girl told a story about a cat who pooped out worms that would eat people. Kelsey did not like that. The other girl told a story about a pony who lived forever and made everyone around her happy all the time. Kelsey thought this story was a little better. However, it still was kind of boring, for there was no suspense. And when it came Kelsey's turn to tell a story, she decided she was going to tell a story about a fairy. However, she liked to have props for her stories. If she was telling stories about a knight, she liked a knight in shining armor stuffed animal, etc. So she said, come friends, we have to find something that I can use as a magic wand. So they went all about the park, looking under trees, under stones, climbing to the top of the playgrounds, but they couldn't find anything that looked like a magic wand. And when Kelsey's friend Beretta said, hey, well, that rock looks weird. Let's check under that one. So they ran over by the stream, and they saw a rock that had a strange brown tint to it. And Kelsey tried to lift it up, and she could not do it alone. It was very heavy. So all three of them, Beretta and her other friend Cindy, they all pried their fingers under the rock and lifted. And much to their surprise, as they lifted, they heard a sound like this. It was a creaking hinge. And somehow, this rock was not a rock, but a lid to a chest. And when the chest lid opened, Kelsey gasped in surprise, as did her friends Beretta and Cindy. For inside was a magical wand, or at least what appeared to be one. It was covered in the shiniest silver that you would ever seen and reflected the sunlight. The top of it was shaped like a star, and it was covered in the most majestic diamonds that one could imagine. And it seemed to have this slight glow and distortion, as if it was crackling with energy that was modifying the air around it. Kelsey said, what are the odds of something like this happening? I'm looking to tell a story about a magic wand, and we find a rock in the park that's a secret old chest and it has a magic wand in it? And Beretta said, it does seem rather strange and rather suspicious. And her friend Cindy said, I have no comment. I'm going home. This is too weird. So it was just Kelsey and Beretta. Kelsey picked up the wand, and it felt like almost the same feeling you would get when you get a little zap when you touch both ends of the battery at the same time. She felt that in her hand, and she felt alive. She felt energy and strength flowing through her. And she said, Beretta, hold this wand. And Beretta held it. No! She had the same thing happen. Well, Beretta said, that's it. I'm freaking out. I'm going home too. So Kelsey was alone in the park. She didn't even get to tell her story, but she did have something new and interesting to play with. So she went over to a sunflower, and she took the wand and said, Abracadabra, grow. Nothing happened. She said, grow. Nothing happened. She said, Alakazam, grow. Nothing happened. Well, it occurred to Kelsey that she probably didn't know how to use a magic wand. So she took it home and put it under her pillow. And she didn't tell her parents about this because they would think it was another one of her fanciful flights of whimsy. But she did look on her tablet the whole night for things about magic wands. And what she found, and it's hard to verify how accurate this information is because anybody can make anything up on the internet. But what she found, there was a woman named Esmeralda who claimed to have been a maker of magic wands. Now, unfortunately, she had passed away, or croaked, many moons ago. But her website mentioned that it wasn't about the words you were saying, it was about the feeling from inside and guiding the magic with your soul. And so that night, she got out her wand right before bed from under her pillow, and she looked at the light on her ceiling, which was off. The room was dark and peaceful, and the fan was whirring gently about. And with all her heart, she imagined the light flickered on. She could see it. She could feel how it would sting her eyes a little bit that were used to the dark. She could picture the color, which wasn't the normal color of the light. It was more orange and less yellow. And then she felt her spirit come out through her and go to the light. And the light flickered on. She gasped, and her mom came in and said, What is it? What is it, honey? And Esmeralda said, Nothing, I'm just... Esmeralda. Kelsey said, Nothing, I'm just, chilling out in here. And her mom went to bed. And Kelsey went to bed that night, and she had some really weird dreams. The next morning was a school day, and so she took the wand with her to school, and one thing that she couldn't stop thinking about it, she could feel the magic vibrating and pulsating in her back pocket, and it's almost as if since she had turned the light on, the magic had grown stronger, or perhaps she could just sense it more. She didn't know which. But there was a science experiment in the class where the class was going to see what the properties of Play-Doh were. They were going to see, did Play-Doh conduct electricity? What would happen if you put Play-Doh in water? What would happen if you mixed Play-Doh with other compounds? And the teacher was talking about this, and Esmeralda had I called her Esmeralda again. Kelsey had a really weird idea. She imagined in her head a little jar of Play-Doh, and she imagined it coming to life and growing bigger and bigger and kind of walking all around the classroom. She could feel it. She could hear how it would sound. She could imagine all the kids in the classroom freaking out. She could even imagine what it would look like if Play-Doh pooped. And for some reason, in her mind, the Play-Doh pooped out cans of Spot It, the game. Weird, I know. But she didn't think this was the type of thing that could happen. There was a big difference between lighting up a light just a little bit and making some inanimate object blast into the world alive. She tried it anyway. She took her wand and she hid it in her long-sleeve shirt, and she imagined her soul and her spirit traveling out with the magic and hitting the can of the Play-Doh. And much to her shock, and the shock of her teacher, the Play-Doh shook around. Like the container shook around and fell off of his desk and onto the floor. The lid popped off. And much to her surprise and amazement and delight and a little bit of fear, the Play-Doh started slithering about on the floor. And it started growing. And it slithered over a dead cricket. And it made a weird munching sound. And it grew even more. And it slithered over a piece of gum that had been on the ground. And it grew even more. And it was just undulating and going all around the classroom, eating everything it could find. And within 10 minutes, it was as big as a cat. Everyone in the classroom was freaking out. The teacher was telling everyone to get back, get back. We don't know if this is dangerous. Get back, get back. He was freaked. The kids, some were laughing, some were crying. Everyone was scared. Regardless, everyone got out of the classroom and they looked in through the window on the door. The Play-Doh started eating pencils, and then notebooks, and then books, and then the chair of a desk, and then the desk. And before too long, the Play-Doh thing was the size of a small car. And then it ate everything in the classroom, and it started eating the door and oozing out into the hallway. Then it was the size of a semi-truck. And all the students and teachers ran outside, and the Play-Doh started eating everything. And before long, it was bigger than the school, and it was starting to go all over the city. And it became clear to Kelsey and to everyone that this thing would eat the whole town if it got the chance. Kelsey knew she had to do something to stop it. She tried to cast a fireball at it. It didn't work. She tried to imagine it shriveling back up into the Play-Doh jar and going to sleep. It didn't work. And when it wasn't working, she became desperate and she said, oh, please, I need someone to help me, please. And just like that, a fairy popped out of the wand. And Kelsey said, can any of you see this? And everyone looked and said, yeah, we see your little toy wand, whatever. So they couldn't see the fairy. The fairy said to her, why, hello there, Kelsey. I see that your actions have come home to roost, and now you need my help for your misuse of the wand. And Kelsey said, I didn't know. We just found this wand. I didn't think anything like this would happen. And the fairy said, well, my name is Tinker Tunisia, and I can help you for a price. Once I'm done helping you, you must free me forever from this wand. The wand will become useless, and I shall go off into space and join my fairy friends upon another world. Kelsey said, anything. And the fairy said, very well. The creature that now lives inside of that Play-Doh is not merely living Play-Doh. It is a demon called Skarganoth, and you have inadvertently summoned him from the underworld. Kelsey said, demon? Demons are real? And the fairy said, why, yes, I'm real. Magic is clearly real. Why should it shock you that a demon exists? Kelsey said, okay, well, fine, what do I do? And the fairy said, well, it just so happens that this particular demon loves to play games and make bets. Now, the problem is he likes to play bets and make games with your soul. So if you play with him and you lose, your soul will be his forever. Kelsey said, oh my God, that's terrible. I don't want that. And the fairy said, then you shall watch your world be slowly devoured. For any weapon that is fired upon this demon or this Play-Doh will only make it stronger and larger. And there is nothing that you can do to stop it. Nor I, nor any creature that I know of. Kelsey was a very brave girl. One might say she was courageous, even noble. She had the spirit that would have been similar to King Arthur or the other knights of old. For she said, oh, fairy, what game do I have to play? And the fairy said, the clue is in its excrement. What does it poop? Kelsey said, the game Spot It. And the fairy said, exactly. Beat it at 3 games of Spot It, and it will be transformed back to the netherworld, not to return for 1,000 years. But should you lose its soul, it will take your soul, and it will make you its servant for all of eternity. Kelsey said, okay. So Kelsey ran forward and grabbed one of the cans of Spot It that it had pooped out. It was warm and a little sticky, but it didn't feel like poo. She sniffed it, and it smelled like poop, and then she sniffed it again because it smelled kind of good because she liked the smell of poop. That was her one weird thing. But regardless, she screamed, Demon! I challenge you to a game of Spot It! And the Play-Doh stopped undulating, and a strange face formed on the side and said, "You challenge me?" And she said, "Yes, I challenge you. Play me, or are you too incapacitated with fear?" "I don't lose to little girls. We shall play." So 2 weird hands came out of the Play-Doh, and the eyes extended, and Kelsey grabbed the spot-it, and they started playing. The demon got the first 4 cards, then 6, then 8, and Kelsey was feeling kind of scared, and the demon said, "We will play 3 games. The best 2 out of 3 wins." And so Kelsey got a few. She got the dragon. She got the weird poisonous slime blob. She got the skull and crossbones. And it was neck and neck until the demon got the very last card and won the first game. Kelsey was starting to feel scared. And the demon said, "There's no backing out now. You can't quit. If you quit, you lose, and you will be mine." And Kelsey said, "Oh, my word, that is not something that I'm into." So she played the next game with the fury of 1,000 suns. Her eyes were on fire. Her brain was focusing. She had never been so engaged. And she started off by getting the first 3 rounds. And then the demon got 4. And then she got 4. And the demon got 2. And then she got 6. And she won the second game. The demon said, "Oh, we are tied. This one is for all." And it was the most intense game she had ever played. They alternated back and forth, each getting a point, until it ended up that the very last round would determine the winner. Kelsey prayed to the universe, to gods, whatever you believe. She hoped, she believed in herself. She said, "I will do this for my family, for my world, for myself, for my parents," because her parents would not enjoy if she was taken to the underworld. And the cards got laid down, and instantly she saw it. It was the apple. She called it out, and immediately the demon started shrieking a most horrendous sound, a deep, guttural roar that sounded like metal scraping on metal and rocks pounding together, and the most awful screams of like 20 people screaming in different tones. You could not make the sound with the human voice. And then the Play-Doh fell to the ground. It didn't disappear, but it stopped being alive. The fairy cheered and said, "Thank you!" and then slowly evaporated into a cloud. And everyone was like, "Yeah, you did it! You're the hero!" And they all started playing in the Play-Doh. They were picking it up and they were throwing it in the air. It was crazy. It was cool. It was awesome. And that is how Kelsey became known amongst a certain circle as the Demon Slayer. And when she was older, believe it or not, she would have many more adventures, because those who can best a demon in any capacity are a very special and rare breed. And those who could call forth the magic, whether with a wand or not, were the type of people that were destined for greatness. And those with courage, such as she bore, were destined to help others. This is probably not the last that you will hear of Kelsey, for she had another friend we know named Egon. The end. All right, that was a little longer than I meant it to be. I hope you like it. You've got to tell Mommy to tell me what the rating is, 1 out of 10. And if you have any suggestions for what the next objects could be. Good night. I love you. And sweet dreams. Au revoir.